Teen Titans Go to the Movies is the best superhero film in cinemas right now. Sorry, Ant-Man. This shit is way better than you'd expect. Following the premise of the Teen Titans team actively trying to get their own standalone superhero movie, which leader Robin romanticizes as the thing that will legitimize them in the eyes of their big-name counterparts like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, who only see them as silly goofball sidekicks, Teen Titans Go sees the famous kids superhero team on a colourful, gag-filled adventure, as they try to find a nemesis and have a grand enough high-stakes fight that'll hopefully have directors knocking on their door begging for the rights to adapt it, before biting off maybe more than they can chew in taking on supervillain Deathstroke in a film that is full of fan-pleasing in-jokes and apt teardowns of the genre as a whole. It's a brilliant cacophony of ideas that acts as one half piss take, one half love letter to just how fun, exciting, and absolutely dumb and silly superhero movies can be. Teen Titans Go to the Movies represents the first theatrical outing for popular Cartoon Network mainstay Teen Titans Go, a wildly popular kids show based on the long-running DC comic book characters that came out as a colourful slapstick spin-off alternative to the fucking brilliant and multiple award-winning 2013 Teen Titans show. Teen Titans Go has a colourful history, proving to be an astronomically huge hit with the children it's aimed at, enough so to run for 5 seasons over 5 years now, while at the same time drawing unfathomable criticism and hatred from older fans for the reason that they seem to somehow think this, I guess, spits on the legacy of the original cartoon or somehow stops that show from existing, which honestly isn't exactly the case. Oh, and for some fans, the phrase ruined everything gets thrown around a lot when discussing the show, along with the buzzwords CalArt style being used as an insult to suggest that as a direct result of this and other similarly styled shows' popularity, all cartoons are now going down the drain due to an influx of creators from California art school backgrounds who all have the same bean-shaped or rounded edge style of drawing, creating a universally similar look that apparently a lot of people don't like. Let's just take a quick tangent to break down that bullshit, shall we? This criticism, of course, does not acknowledge the greater context that CalArts University has no set style and includes notable alumni with completely different animation methods and identities, including such noteworthy names as Gendy Tartakovsky, Brad Bird, Gary Trousdale, Tim Burton. The list could go on, but you get my point. It also fails to acknowledge that a lot of current creators currently being given this criticism of being some CalArts-educated, terrible Teen Titan Go drawing style ripoff did not actually attend CalArts University. It also ignores that dominant animation styles often come in waves anyway, such as when the 80s shows all had the He-Man, G.I. Joe, Dino Riders manly dude style look, or how in the mid-2000s when Avatar was popular and sprung a western influx of anime influence work. It further fails to take into account that although they might not be to certain individuals' taste, this and the last generation of cartoons have given us some of the most notably beloved and celebrated children's animated shows of all time, that CalArts itself literally have a Vimeo page dedicated to a yearly playlist of their most recent graduates from the Character Arts program, of which this criticism is directly targeted at, that it even so much as a passing glance features an extremely varied array of styles and talent from just as recent as the 2018 graduates, and also that the term itself was merely a phrase invented by Ren and Stimpy creator and all-around allegedly questionable individual John Kay, who was voicing his own personal criticisms with imitations of the Disney and Don Bluth look that the same people who now use the phrase CalArts style often champion as examples of when animation was good. So basically, the phrase has been wrung out of any and all meaning and is now just being used as catch-all criticism, synonymous with, this isn't for me. Not that I'm bitter about dismissive sentiments being used to write off a whole generation of artists' work or anything, but whatever. Now look, I get it. Some of this shit I don't like either. Yeah, it would have been nice to get Season 6 of the 2013 series, but we didn't get it, and Teen Titans Go got really popular. And I don't like Teen Titans Go. And I'm probably not going to watch that Thundercats reboot. And I'm not a fan of Ben 10's new look. I'm also 26 and not the target audience for Cartoon Network, so you know, I'll cope. Now, the only reason I mention this is because as a franchise, Teen Titans Go has actually in the past brought this divisive reception into their own narrative in metatextual ways. One of the few clips of the show I've actually watched and enjoyed, in fact after being linked to it a couple of years back, sees the newly rebranded CalArts Teen Titans reacting to a villain showing them their old look, with the writers directly acknowledging how great the 2013 show was and the negative reception received by Go, in a fun sequence that slightly trolls those old fans while also somewhat appeasing them by acknowledging their criticisms. That's fascinating when you think about it, because the show chooses to basically directly address the fans who probably aren't even watching it at the expense of the kids who are, as they'll probably have never seen the 2013 show and likely won't really get what this clip is even referencing. I'm not sure how often the show does stuff like this now, but I'm wondering if it must have recently found an interesting middle ground between the old and new fans where they can make kid-friendly, goofy, silly content, while also commentating on aspects of superhero fandoms and saturation as a whole, with jokes that will go straight over those same kids' heads and wink and nudge instead in the direction of their parents, because I was joyously surprised to find out that's exactly what the movie is. I did not expect to like Teen Titans Go to the movies. I did not expect to like it at all. I fully anticipated a review where I'd say it was colourful fun for kids who love the show, but that anyone else should avoid it at all costs. And yet here I am, having seen the movie, and I actually loved it. This is a fun fucking movie for anyone even remotely interested in superheroes of any age range. It has some genuine laugh-out-loud moments and solid commentary on the superhero genre as a whole. It essentially boils down to being a PG Deadpool, though I would argue I actually found Teen Titan Go's metatextual swings at the genre, and especially its willingness to laugh at itself and not pull punches, making fun of the dark, gritty and mostly joyless DC cinematic universe, to actually pack a bigger punch than stuff Deadpool did. One perfectly executed gag, for example, pokes fun at the oversaturated nature of superhero properties by casting Batman's butler Alfred in his own standalone movie, which would be funny in its own right, but now is particularly biting in its punchline, as the producers of Gotham have actually now announced that they intend to do pretty much just that. Now, that's not to say that every joke in this film hits. This is first and foremost a kids' movie, so at first the tone takes a little getting used to, with the opening minutes being so frenetic, fast-cutting and colourful that it initially comes off as loudly obnoxious, and it's a wonder that it didn't come with a headache and seizure warning. But once you ride out the initial dizzying speed and kind of settle into the frenzied flashiness of it all, it quickly finds its stride and becomes an exceptionally watchable 1.5 hours that will honestly fly by. The jokes come hard and fast, and although it can't escape some of the low-hanging fruit, yes, we're getting a Save Martha joke, yes, we're going to make fun of the Green Lantern film for the umpteenth time, yes, there's an extended gag in there for kids about poop and farting that goes on way too long. But the pacing is so breezy that these things are gone as quickly as they arrive, and for every moment that's clearly targeted at a much younger audience, or every gag that falls flat, there'll be another that's actually brilliant, with highlights including a couple of fantastically out of field and surprisingly dark punchlines, a trope acknowledging musical number delivered by Michael Bolton, and a recurring gag featuring the challenges of the unknown, which are a DC property so obscure people aren't even sure who exactly made them. The film looks surprisingly great too. While the show never really visually appealed to me in its presentation, the movie is a completely different story and definitely succeeds in separating itself as the big budget foray with massive sweeping camera movements and big drawn out action sequences. I recall Deathstroke's slow motion, slightly 3D-esque intro being a particularly notable highlight here. We even get multiple changes in art style for certain gags, with the film throwing in visual references to iconic comic covers and classic shows like Batman the Animated Series. As well as that, backgrounds are so full of little blink and you'll miss it details that I expect on a second viewing there'll be lots of visual gags and references present that I didn't even catch on the first watch. The voice acting is great too. All of the main cast deliver energetic and pitch-perfect performances with a good feel for the characters, but the big takeaway here is Will Arnett's flawless portrayal of the villain, which through his delivery raises already good writing to a whole other level. He seems to have carved out a perfect niche for himself in portraying parodies of DC properties in kids' movies, because his efforts here as Deathstroke is just as good as his exceptional run as Batman in the first two Lego movies. The plot isn't just a vehicle for gags either. Robin's arc in this film, as he tries to seek self-validation by idealizing all the wrong things, is very straightforward, but hits all the right beats, and concludes with a nice sentiment on friendship that leaves kids with a simple takeaway, but an effective one that I'm sure will resonate with them on at least some level between all the jokes. I'd say all in all that this film sits nicely in this niche of satirical, unnecessarily meta for a kids movie but surprisingly good for adult style flicks, alongside the likes of the Lego Movie and Lego Batman. And while it never quite reaches the level that those two films are at, often holding itself back a little with the really pandery kid stuff that those movies manage to avoid while still being extremely silly and kid friendly, it's still very much worth seeing, and it's always great to see 2D animation hit theatrical release. Even if it's 2D digital animation and not a return to the frame-by-frame hand-drawn stuff I really want to see, it's still nice to get something different to the Pixar/Disney/DreamWorks 3D stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with those either, just, variety is the spice of life and all that jazz. Also, I will mention that this film has a mid-credit sequence. Normally I don't go in for all that kind of stuff. I'll stay to watch them, sure, but they don't really resonate with me the way they do with others, as I find generally I always already know whatever it is they're teasing due to press releases announcing the film they're referencing, sort of spoiling any element of surprise, or in other cases I'll find them inconsequential to the greater story as a whole, or just not care about the property they're acknowledging. However, I am happy to say that, against all odds, the Teen Titans Go credit sequence, out of all of the credit sequences, is the first time I've ever been genuinely taken aback and turned into a giddy, excited mess at one of these things. And it was a really great feeling. For me, anyway. Not so much for my mate sat next to me, whose arm I actually punched as I flailed around excitedly, screaming, "Ah, fuck, this is fucking yes!"